Hey there, I need to share this whole crazy journey with you. It's a pretty long and messed up story, so get comfortable. Sorry if I ramble a bit. I'm still processing everything that happened. So I'm Jason, 43, and my wife Lisa, 40, had been married for 16 years. We have two amazing kids, Sophia, who's 14, and Ben, who's 9. Our marriage was rocky in the beginning, but I really thought we'd worked through all that. We married young, so maturity wasn't all there yet, but we truly loved each other and believed we could overcome any obstacle. Lisa works as a manager at this major advertising company in Denver. She's been there for about 3 years. I work in engineering and have been with my company for 7 years. Both our jobs pay well. I make around $95,000, and she pulls in about $85,000 annually. We live in a nice neighborhood, take vacations to California every summer, and have been able to build a comfortable life. We were always what I considered a tight-knit family. Despite our busy schedules, we made sure we were there for our kids, creating memories that would last forever. Weekend hiking trips in the mountains, family board game tournaments, holiday traditions, you name it. I genuinely believed I was a good dad and husband. Sure, I messed up sometimes, but I would have done absolutely anything for this woman. That's what made it so devastating when I discovered she was having a long-term affair. Looking back now, I should have seen the signs. For about 2 years before everything fell apart, Lisa had been growing increasingly distant. Nothing I did seemed to please her anymore. The worst part was that she kept comparing me to her boss, Mark. Mark would know exactly how to handle this situation, she'd say. Or, can't you read my mind? Mark always knows what his wife needs without asking. Or my personal favorite. Mark takes his wife on spontaneous weekend getaways to keep their romance alive. Why don't you ever do that for me? When I'd ask her what she wanted me to do to spice up our love life, she'd just say, "Don't ask, Jason. You should already know and just do it." Talk about impossible expectations, right? So I bought relationship books, researched online, tried planning special nights, anything I could think of. But my efforts were always met with either lukewarm appreciation or obvious disappointment. I'd spend weeks planning a surprise weekend at a mountain resort, only to have her complain about the room view. I'd cook her favorite meal, and she'd pick at it while scrolling through her phone. This wasn't the Lisa I married. The woman I fell in love with was supportive, warm, and appreciative. This new version of my wife made me feel like I was constantly failing. My self-esteem was crumbling, and I genuinely thought I needed to try harder to make her happy. What I didn't realize was that someone else was already making her plenty happy. We were very close with Mark and his wife Rachel. They also had kids around the same ages as ours, and all the children got along great. We'd have them over for barbecues in our backyard, go on family outings to the lake or the zoo, spend afternoons at the arcade or bowling alley, typical family, friend stuff. They'd been to our house countless times, and we'd been to theirs. I even confided in Mark about our marital problems. He gave me what I thought was helpful advice, telling me to give Lisa more space and independence. At the time I thought, wow, Mark is such a good friend, trying to help save my marriage. If only I'd known he was the one destroying it. The moment everything changed was on a Tuesday night. Lisa was in bed next to me, laughing and giggling, while texting someone. When I leaned over, curious about what was so funny, she violently pulled the phone away from my view. She immediately got angry, demanding to know what I was doing. "I just wanted to see what the joke was," I told her innocently. "It's none of your business," she snapped, before locking herself in the bathroom with her phone. That's when I knew. In my gut, something was very wrong. Even when we were having problems, she'd never been so protective of her phone before. The next morning, I directly asked her if she was having an affair. Looking back, this was a mistake. I should have gathered evidence first. She exploded at me, calling me paranoid and insecure. When I asked to see her phone, she flat out refused. Only later that night did she grudgingly hand me her phone, but by then, She'd deleted almost everything incriminating. I could tell because conversations seemed to jump topics abruptly, and some made absolutely no sense without context. I gave her phone back without saying much, but the damage was done. The trust was broken. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was very wrong. About a month later, I got a tech-savvy buddy of mine to help recover some deleted texts from her old phone that she barely used anymore. What we found wasn't complete, but it was enough to confirm my worst fears. Lisa was having an affair with Mark. I remember sitting in my friend's basement staring at those text fragments, feeling like someone had punched me in the stomach. I literally couldn't breathe for a moment. 16 years of marriage, 2 beautiful children, countless memories, and she'd thrown it all away. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold the phone. I actually broke down crying right there in front of my buddy, which was humiliating. But I couldn't help it. Everything I thought I knew about my life had just been shattered. Despite what I'd discovered, my first instinct was still to try to save our marriage. I know that sounds pathetic now, but when you've built a life with someone for 16 years, you don't just walk away without trying. So I bought this book called How to Help Your Spouse Heal from an Affair. I thought maybe I could show it to Lisa, and we could work through this together. I planned to talk to her that Saturday, to confront her with what I knew and offer a path to reconciliation. But then she told me there was an emergency at work and not to wait up for her. Of course, I called her workplace to verify her story, only to find out they weren't even open on Saturdays. I tried her cell phone, but no answer. She finally came, home at 2 a.m. Sunday morning, immediately taking a shower before coming to bed. When I asked her why she was so late, she just brushed me off, saying, "I already told you not to wait up for me." That's when I realized this wasn't just an affair. It was a complete disregard for me as a person. She saw me suffering, clearly, knew I was suspicious, and simply didn't care. It was like I didn't matter at all anymore. I felt so small in that moment, like everything I'd ever done for our family meant nothing to her. I was desperate for some stability, some answer that would make sense of the chaos my life had become. So I did something I never thought I'd do. I contacted Rachel, Mark's wife. I needed to know if she had any suspicions about what was going on. When we met at her house the following week, she was as shocked as I'd been. She wanted to confront Mark immediately, but I convinced her that he would probably just lie and try to hide the affair better, like Lisa had done with me. We both decided to gather more evidence separately and then compare notes. I started digging deeper into Lisa's activities, and Rachel did the same with Mark. It turned out to be much easier on Rachel's end to find undeniable proof. Mark was so arrogant that he didn't even delete the texts between him and my wife. His phone had everything, and when we matched those messages with the fragments I'd found, we finally had the complete picture. The affair had been going on for 2 years, 2 whole years of my life where I thought I was working on my marriage while she was actively destroying it. They'd slept together everywhere, in her office, in our house when I was at work, in their house when Rachel was out, in expensive hotels during business trips that were actually romantic getaways. Reading those messages was one of the most painful experiences of my life. They mocked me, laughed about how oblivious I was. Mark would text things like, "He really thinks I'm trying to help him save his marriage." And Lisa would reply with laughing emojis. They'd plan their meetups, meticulously, creating elaborate lies to tell us. There were even messages comparing our sex life unfavorably to theirs. The level of betrayal was just staggering. Not only had they been physically unfaithful, but they'd actively enjoyed deceiving us. That hurt almost as much as the affair itself. Rachel and I were both devastated, but we agreed. If they wanted each other so badly, they could have each other. We weren't going to be anyone's backup plan or consolation prize. We both decided to file for divorce. It wasn't a revenge affair between us. We were just 2 broken people trying to support each other through the worst experience of our lives. We acted our parts perfectly, pretending we still had no idea what was going on, while quietly getting all our ducks in a row. By the time our divorce papers were ready, Lisa and Mark were at it again. Through collaborating with Rachel, we knew exactly where they were going to be. They'd booked a luxury suite at the Broadmoor Resort in Colorado Springs for their weekend of fun, while telling us they both had conferences in different cities. I personally went there with a process server. I waited in the lobby, heart pounding in my chest, as the server called Lisa down from her room. When she appeared in the lobby wearing nothing but a hotel bathrobe, her face went completely white. When she saw me, she started panicking, frantically asking what I was doing there. The process server asked her to confirm her name and identification, which she confusedly did, and then he handed her the divorce papers. The look on her face as she realized what was happening is something I'll never forget. Shock, shame, and then panic all washed over her in waves. She tried to grab my arm as I turned to leave, begging me to tell her what was going on. I simply said, "You had an affair with Mark for 2 years, and I'm leaving you. It's that simple." She started screaming at me, then shifted to crying and pulling on my arm. The server had to step in and tell her to release me. She let go but then collapsed into tears, saying she could explain everything, that I had the wrong idea, that it was all my fault anyway. I was starting to get angry, so I just walked away. I could hear her sobbing in the lobby as the elevator doors closed. It was both heartbreaking and vindicating at the same time. According to Rachel, Mark rushed home when Lisa called him, only to be served with divorce papers the moment he walked through his front door. Apparently, he immediately tried to damage, control, claiming it was just sex and meant nothing. Classic. What followed were some of the most difficult months of my life. Both Lisa and Mark fought us on the divorces. Neither one wanted to end their marriages. Their excuses were pathetic. We never intended to leave our spouses. It was purely a sexual affair, nothing more. People have worse affairs and still come out with great marriages. When I asked Lisa what she thought the endgame was, she actually said she was going with the flow and had acted completely out of character. She claimed she wasn't that person anymore. I told her she was an idiot if she thought I'd believe that. People around me, friends, colleagues, even my own mother, started calling me cruel for not giving Lisa another chance. My kids knew what was going on, in an age-appropriate way, of course, and while they supported me, they also expressed that they'd prefer if we stayed together. My resolve started wavering. We were still living in the same house during the divorce proceedings, and Lisa was going to therapy, reading self-help books, and constantly telling me how remorseful she was. She said she'd do whatever it took to save our marriage. All I could tell her was that she was only sorry she got caught. She actually called me a bitter, resentful person who can't look past negativity during one argument, though she apologized for it later. But those words revealed how she really felt, that I should just get over her 2-year betrayal. Lisa particularly hated that Rachel and I were still in contact. She was convinced we were going to have a revenge affair. We weren't. She repeatedly asked me to cut contact with Rachel, just like she had supposedly done with Mark. I told her she was crazy. Rachel and I hadn't done anything wrong, so why should I stop talking to someone who understood exactly what I was going through? Lisa still didn't want to give up on our marriage. She actively tried to engage me in conversations about the affair, which I saw as just making excuses. She wanted me to do therapy with her, but I'd read too many stories about therapists who blame the victim, so I refused at first. She wanted me to read infidelity books with her, which seemed pointless if we were going to divorce anyway. She even tried to initiate intimacy, which I immediately shut down, telling her she wasn't going to manipulate me with sex. She claimed it wasn't manipulation, that she just wanted to show me how much she loved me. I corrected her. Love me now, you mean? Where was this love for the past 2 years? People around me grew frustrated, saying I was being too harsh, that people make mistakes. and that Lisa had realized through her mistakes that she truly did love me. I kept telling them I refused to be anyone's fallback plan or second choice. I felt terrible about how I was treating her. Despite everything, I still loved her, even though there was also a lot of hatred mixed in. It was confusing and exhausting, feeling both emotions simultaneously toward the same person. I started questioning myself. Was I being unnecessarily cruel? She was trying really hard to make amends. Should I reconsider the divorce? Everyone kept saying I was moving too quickly and would regret it. At a low point, I agreed to go to a few therapy sessions with her. Not because I wanted to save the marriage, but because I didn't want to be seen as the bad guy. One session was actually helpful. It made me understand that Lisa was genuinely remorseful. She wasn't perfect in how she handled the aftermath of her affair, but she was trying really hard. The second session was a disaster. She was upset that I was still in contact with Rachel, and terrified I was planning a revenge affair. It was the angriest I'd been through this whole mess. We argued for hours after that session because I refused to cut ties with Rachel. We only resolved it when I promised her I wouldn't have a revenge affair. I didn't owe her anything, but she was still technically my wife until the divorce was final, and I wanted to honor that commitment, even if she hadn't. Lisa ended up quitting her job at the advertising company. She resigned shortly after I served her the divorce papers. According to her, she cut off all contact with Mark. She started reaching out to online forums for advice on saving our marriage. The closer we got to finalizing the divorce, the more at peace I felt. Lisa asked if we could have another chance after the divorce was final. She even offered a post-nuptial agreement. I wasn't completely opposed to the idea, but I told her it would be a very, very long road, and I wasn't sure it would benefit either of us. A huge part of me wanted the divorce out of a sense of justice. It felt like the only justice I could get without lowering myself to her level. My mother and I eventually reconciled after I revealed more details about Lisa's affair. After learning everything, my mom was absolutely furious with Lisa. That created its own complications. How do you navigate family relationships when everyone knows the intimate details of your marital breakdown? Lisa became incredibly insecure about Rachel. Compared to other betrayed spouses I'd read about online, Rachel was younger, more attractive, and owned her own successful business. This made Lisa paranoid that I would give in to temptation and have a revenge affair. The hypocrisy was infuriating. Every time I went to visit Rachel, always with my kids by the way, Lisa would either get extremely sad or extremely clingy. She'd throw herself at me sexually, clearly trying to make sure I wouldn't cheat on her. I always rejected her advances, which only made things worse. It absolutely floored me that cheaters could be this selfish, only thinking about their own pain while the betrayed spouse has to try to pick up the pieces of their shattered life. Meanwhile, Mark was living in their holiday home begging Rachel to take him back. I won't lie, it brought me a certain satisfaction to see him suffering the consequences of his actions. He never tried to threaten me, probably because of how much leverage I had on him. He had to deal with the fact that I was still in contact with his wife. He was allowed to visit his kids anytime, but he made sure I wasn't around when he did. During another therapy session, Lisa asked me to give her more time to win me back. She had reason after reason why we should try to recover our marriage. I kept pointing out that she was only trying now because she'd been caught. She would never have been making this effort if she was still seeing Mark. She acknowledged all her wrongdoings and apologized again, making promises about making it up to me and building a stronger marriage than before. When I asked if she was willing to put up with my rage, because I had plenty to spare, she said absolutely. She wanted me to unload on her whenever I needed to. For once, when I asked why she had the affair, she didn't make excuses. She told me there was no excuse for what she did, and she would spend every day for the rest of her life showing me through her actions that she was truly remorseful. She opened up about her feelings in a way she never had before. She admitted she was very insecure and jealous of Rachel. The affair had made her ego skyrocket. She liked feeling beautiful and desired. She acknowledged that the affair was definitely a fantasy that would never have lasted in reality. She regretted ever having it and said she would live with the guilt for the rest of her life. Here's where it got interesting. The therapist asked me what it would take for me to consider Lisa's proposal to reconcile. Nothing came to mind. I honestly told them I would need a time machine, because what I had now was a sham of a marriage that I never signed up for. The therapist told me that all marriages face problems, ranging from infidelity to death, and it's how those problems are dealt with that shows the strength of a marriage. I couldn't believe where the conversation was heading, and I told the therapist to focus on Lisa, not on me. The therapist suggested that my inability to listen to logical reasoning might be a problem communication-wise. I didn't disagree, but I was too hurt to care. Lisa and I had a long talk during the drive home. She asked if I felt emasculated due to her affair. Considering she'd never asked me that before, I was genuinely surprised. I answered yes, and she shocked me by asking if I would feel better if I slept with another woman. I again told her I wasn't going to have a revenge affair, but she explained that she was talking about a trial separation where I could go out and get my mojo back, while she remained faithful and waited until I was ready to return to the marriage. I thought she was desperate before, but this proposal seemed insane. I asked how it would benefit our marriage for both of us to be having affairs. She explained that mine wouldn't be an affair because we would be separated with conditions allowing me to see other people. When I pointed out the huge risk she was taking, she responded that we were getting divorced anyway. So if this didn't help, at least I could see what the outside world has to offer. I rejected the idea because it seemed completely out of character for her. Lisa became strangely calm and patient in the weeks that followed. She was like a different person from the insecure, desperate woman she'd been before. Of course, I knew better than to trust this change, but it made things easier. Even though she didn't want the divorce, she was very generous during the proceedings. I'd read so many stories about nasty divorces, but mine was surprisingly civilized. It felt almost unreal. As the holidays approached, Lisa and I decided to be civil and spend them together as a family. I knew it would be the last holidays we'd spend together as a married couple, though Lisa was still hoping otherwise. I did it mainly for our kids' sake. The divorce was set to be finalized in mid-February. We split everything half and half, though. Lisa was actually more generous than required, saying it was because I'd been a great husband and father. I got slightly more than I was legally entitled to, thanks to her guilt. By this point, I'd stopped going to therapy with her, realizing it was giving her false hope and sending mixed signals. Lisa confessed that she had a burning desire to be intimate with me. She frequently tried to initiate sex, which was ironic since she hardly ever initiated before the affair. At first, I found it upsetting, but over time I appreciated that she was trying to address my feelings of emasculation, kept rejecting her advances, but she persisted, claiming it had nothing to do with reconciliation. She just wanted me to feel desired. It was tempting, I won't lie. There were nights when the loneliness was crushing, and having my wife right there, practically begging for intimacy, tested my resolve. I temporarily cut off contact with Rachel because things were getting too personal. Someone pointed out that I might be having an emotional affair, and they weren't entirely wrong. I hadn't realized it myself until Rachel confessed that she wanted to see where our relationship might go. She said she would wait until my divorce was finalized before we tried anything physical. I was very confused and had no answer for her. Rachel was attractive, successful, and understood my pain better than anyone, but I wasn't sure if my feelings for her were genuine or just a response to my broken marriage. We decided to take a break from seeing each other until everything was sorted out. Mark met me in person to apologize for everything that happened. This guy who had always been so arrogant was now humbled by the experience. I didn't accept his apology. Call me petty, but I didn't care about what he was going through. The encounter was brief and awkward. He looked terrible, like he hadn't slept in weeks. Part of me felt a sense of justice seeing him so broken, but another part just felt sad for everyone involved. Lives were being torn apart because of selfish choices. I wrestled with whether it was okay to have sex with Lisa, even if we weren't reconciling. I missed the intimacy and closeness, and Lisa was pulling out all the stops. New lingerie, sexting, touching, love letters, you name it. Sometimes it was really hard to resist. She even threw away or burned anything that had to do with Mark in our house, without me asking her to. It was a gesture meant to show she was committed to erasing that part of her life. As the divorce date approached, I had a moment of clarity. I realized I hadn't wasted all those years on Lisa. She gave me 2 amazing kids and many good memories that I would always cherish. But I finally understood that I deserved better than what she'd given me. I deserved someone who wouldn't throw me away when another man showed her attention. Someone who wouldn't invest energy in another relationship while neglecting ours. It was ironic that only now was Lisa doing everything to keep me. Now she was investing energy in us. Now she wanted me to be happy. Now she wanted to be adventurous sexually. Now she respected my boundaries. The sex we'd had during our marriage was never mind-blowing, but I'd been content with it. After seeing some of her texts with Mark, I realized how much I'd missed out on. Knowing that she'd been passionate and adventurous with him but lazy with me spoke volumes. Lisa had transformed into the ideal wife, but it seemed artificial and too late. She was completely transparent now, brutally honest even when it embarrassed her. The constant look of shame on her face sometimes made me hate myself for not being more receptive, but I knew it was necessary for my own healing. Many people told me I should see Lisa's remorse as a positive thing, that many couples have long-term affairs and come out stronger, that I was basing my decisions on emotion rather than mature objectivity. They said someone else would end up with this improved version of Lisa, while I ventured into an uncertain future. But I had one answer to all of this. I would not accept disrespect. Maybe I was willing to in the early stages after discovery, but I'd woken up from that quickly. I decided to enjoy Christmas with my family and then move on completely. Lisa wasn't a villain, and I wanted her to be happy, just not with me. She had shown me who she was, and I believed her the first time. I called Rachel and offered to take her to dinner after the holidays, as thanks for her support when I hit rock bottom. She said she would love to. Before anyone assumes I planned. This all along I honestly didn't. My emotions had been so chaotic that the thought of another relationship hadn't even crossed my mind until recently. As for Mark, I didn't give a flying fig about him anymore. I wasn't sure if I would ever marry again. The whole idea of marriage seemed like a sham. I'd given my best years to Lisa, and I was only now realizing how little I'd gotten back. When the divorce was finally official, I grieved like I'd lost a loved one. For several days, I cried harder than I had since discovering the affair. I raged, too, throwing things, punching pillows, screaming into the void. It was definitely one of my lowest points. Everything had been organized regarding custody arrangements. Lisa moved out of our house, and I began the process of buying her out of her share. She moved into an apartment, a significant downgrade that clearly depressed her. She continued going to therapy and studying about infidelity, though I couldn't understand why since we were officially over. We had long talks about co-parenting, maintaining minimal physical contact. I knew I shouldn't be entertaining her at all, but she was still the mother of my kids, and I wanted us to be good co-parents. The weekend after the divorce was finalized, I took Rachel to dinner. We talked about everything and nothing, and things got flirty. I was reluctant at first, still feeling the weight of my failed marriage, but there was an undeniable chemistry between us. The night ended far more passionately than I'd planned. It was probably the most mind-blowing sexual experience I'd ever had. Rachel was attentive, enthusiastic, and giving in ways Lisa had never been. For the first time, I understood what it felt like to be truly desired by a partner. I didn't think we would take our relationship further. We both needed time to heal emotionally, but the experience helped restore my damaged self-esteem. I felt desired, alive, and finally understood what I'd been missing out on all those years. Most importantly, I hadn't cheated or compromised my morals. I'd waited until I was legally free before exploring a new relationship. All things considered, I was proud of how I handled the entire ordeal. I wasn't perfect, but I did the best I could under horrible circumstances. I came out very lucky compared to many betrayed spouses, even if I did lose a substantial amount of money in the process. I learned some valuable lessons. Respect yourself, and never accept disrespect from anyone, not even those closest to you. Everyone deserves a healthy, fulfilling relationship. Never settle for less. Every committed relationship should include mutual effort and satisfaction. Don't tolerate one-sided relationships. Communication is absolutely essential. So many problems stem from poor communication. If you're ever betrayed, only you can truly heal yourself. It takes time, but it's possible. Fast forward 2 years, and things are mostly good now. Rachel and I are officially a couple, and she's become an amazing partner. If I'd known a woman like her existed, I would have ended my marriage years earlier. I've never had a stronger relationship with any woman. Because Lisa put me through so much, I didn't really know what a healthy relationship looked like. I still doubt myself sometimes, but Rachel has helped me work through that and shown me what genuine partnership feels like. There's been some friction between our children as they adjust to the new family dynamics. We've had to start them in therapy to make sure they properly adjust and understand that our relationship doesn't diminish their importance. My daughter and Lisa still struggle sometimes. I think they both blame the other for how things turned out. There's definite tension when they're around each other. Lisa still wants a second chance and seems angry that Rachel is in the way of me seeing things clearly. She tried something at a 4th of July party my friend threw. I shut it down, but apparently not firmly enough. I really thought Lisa was changing for the better, but ever since I moved on with someone else, she's been a train wreck. That's what I still don't understand. I treated her better than I've treated anyone else in my life, and she treated me like garbage. But the moment I said enough, she started doing backflips trying to get my attention. Rachel and Lisa occasionally have to interact because of the kids, but there's no love lost between them. Lisa genuinely hates Rachel, which I find ironic given that she's the one who destroyed our marriage in the first place. As for Mark, he's a lost cause. He has a new girlfriend now, but his kids despise her. She comes across as extremely materialistic and callous toward his daughters. I didn't realize what a mess that guy would turn out to be. All that money and success, but no moral compass whatsoever. So there you have it. We're doing better than okay now. Don't get me wrong, I had my doubts about whether leaving Lisa was the right decision, but with effort from everyone involved, things have turned out well. It's not a fairy tale ending. Life is messier than that. But I'm genuinely happy now, in a way I hadn't been for years during my marriage. The kids are adjusting. Rachel and I are building something real together, and even Lisa seems to be slowly accepting reality. If there's one thing I've learned through all this, it's that sometimes the hardest decisions are the right ones. Walking away from a 16-year marriage wasn't easy, but staying would have meant accepting a life of disrespect and pain. I deserved better than that. Everyone does. Share your thoughts below and don't forget to follow the channel for more deep and meaningful stories.